Welcome to Desis on Main, where stories of resilience and triumph take center stage. Please join us as we embark on a journey with extraordinary individuals who have carved out their path to success through entrepreneurship against all odds. Meet Paritosh Kumar, a visionary architect and a shining example of the immigrant success story. Paritosh came to the United States in 1983 after earning his bachelor's in architecture from Chandigarh College of Architecture and working as an assistant town planner for the government of Rajasthan. He pursued his passion for design, graduating with a bachelor's and master's in architecture from the University of Oklahoma in 1988. Paritosh's professional journey began in prestigious architectural firms in New York City, where he honed his skills for over a decade before moving to New Jersey. There he earned his architectural license and in 2001 established his own firm. Over the past 23 years, his firm has grown and contributed to numerous private and municipal projects, earning local, regional, national, and international awards. From overcoming the challenges of being an immigrant to excelling in his field, Paritosh Kumar continues to inspire with his dedication to design and community development. So let's talk to Paritosh about his remarkable journey, exploring the challenges he faced as an immigrant entrepreneur and the lessons he's learned along the way. Welcome, Paritosh, to Desis on Main Street. How are you doing?
Thank you very much, Pia, for having me today here. And ITV is a great channel. Happy to be here.
Thank you, and pleasure is all ours. But let's start right away from your journey from India to US. I think it's truly inspiring. So let's go back to your early days in Rajasthan. How was it growing up?
It was very good. I was born and brought up in Jodhpur, Rajasthan. Both my parents were doctors, and so we grew up. I was in Central School. They called it Central School Kendriya Vidyalaya, which has a lot of branches all over India. So which was one of the good schools considered. So touchwood, I was one of the top students always, most of the time, in all the grades. And besides that, I was a very good sportsman also in cricket, and I went to a high level in cricket during my high school days, and I can tell you more about that, which inspired me in a lot of ways. How the lessons I learned from that helped me throughout the process. But it was, I have a sister, an elder sister, and my father is 102 years old now.
Wow.
He's still in Jodhpur. My mother passed away, but they were both very well-known doctors. So we had a good upbringing. They gave us very good spiritual background to Swami Vivekananda's, to follow Ramakrishna Paramahansa's guidelines, which has helped us throughout the process, everywhere.
So Paritosh, let's talk about your experiences and lessons you learned from your childhood, and that you believe that it shaped your life.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I learned a big lesson as I was growing up, and I was very good in cricket. I was selected in 10th grade. That's when the board exams and everything happened. I was selected in locals, regionals, national school boys. I was the fastest bowler in the state of Rajasthan and all. I was in newspapers all the time. And they told me, now you have to keep on going on tours. I was already on tours, and they said you have to keep on going on tours. 95% of people who get selected in national go into international cricket, and I was, board exams were coming up, and I had to select either I become a professional cricketer or I have to go into studies. And so obviously at that time I could not be, in 10th grade we have to stick to studies, and
Right.
so I had to give up my professional cricketing. But what I learned from that was, and nobody gave me any training, I did everything myself, hitting against the wall, the ball against the wall and all that. I got myself, trained myself with tutorials, this and that. And that made me learn that, if there is a passion for something, if you are good in something, you're going to be very good if you have a passion for something. And so where there is a will, there is a way, and that has really helped me. And that came into architecture then later on, when I got into architecture, same kind of passion, that helped me. That kind of a lesson I learned, that I don't need anybody's help if I want to be good by myself. Everything comes from inside,
It was so stressful. I was being ripped off by this unreliable, lousy credit card processing service.
Our money wasn't in our bank. We got charged surprise extra fees. There seemed to always be issues.
So one day, I told everyone, we are switching to NRS Pay because they offer clean, honest, and reliable credit card processing.
And now the lines move like this.
I am loving NRS Pay. मेरे business के लिए ये सबसे बढ़िया credit card processing service है.
So were you like, in your mind thinking, okay, if I can be a cricketer, I want to be an architect?
Yeah. So, obviously studies was more important to me at the time. I wanted to get into a career. Because, cricketing, sports, you're good in few years, at least that's what we thought at that time. But anyway, so getting into, so after graduation from high school, getting into college, so I was not into medical field, because at that time in 10th grade you have to select. In India in those times you have to, if you select biology you go become into doctors, medical. If you get mathematics you go into engineering. But I could not cut frogs, so I could never be a doctor. So I say, how can I cut human beings? But anyway, so I went into mathematics, and but engineering was, too dry for me, and architecture is like a lot of artistic and engineering both combined. And I was lucky, enough to get into, to be accepted in Chandigarh College of Architecture, which was at the time second ranked in the country for the School of Architecture. And as you know, Chandigarh was designed by Le Corbusier, the famous architect. So we lived over there and studied with very good education in architecture from in Chandigarh, living in that beautiful environment and living. You learn a lot just by living in, and also education.
So Paritosh, I just want to know, you come from a very well-off family. Everything was right, education was right. So what made you decide, leave India and come to US?
Yeah, a big factor was, actually I had no intentions of coming here, but a big factor was my father coaxed me. He said, if you want an edge over your competition, get higher education from abroad. Get higher education, and from US or whatever.
So did you go to college here?
Yes, that's what happened. So then after that, then I started. In the meantime, I was working as an assistant town planner for the government of Rajasthan. And in the meantime, I was applying to all the schools here for admission. And I was lucky to get admission in University of Oklahoma, which was again a very good architecture school. It was known for petroleum engineering, architecture, and football. And so it was one of the masters of architecture you may have heard of Frank Lloyd Wright. His disciple, he was the dean of the school, and he made the school so excellent. So it was one of the top schools, 11th in bachelor's program, 9th in master's program at the time. So we got very good education from the school over
So
here.
you basically came from India to US and as a student.
As a student, yes.
And but I'm sure everybody goes through challenges. Everybody has their things to part to
Right,
do.
right.
So how did you deal with all the challenges as a student? I know it's very hard.
Right. Do you mean as a student
As
or
a student, I'm sure there were a lot of challenges, right?
Yeah, of course. Especially coming from India, we are not, especially guys, we get everything, living at home, everything is done for us. Here, we had to learn cooking, laundry, cleaning, everything, plus going to school day and night, especially in architecture school, in design studios. You're supposed to be there many long hours. We only had to come to the apartment just to sleep for a couple of hours.
But were you doing any part-time job also to sustain
Yes,
yourself?
yes, we were. Yes, I was doing odd jobs but I was lucky that I was being supported by one of our relatives here financially, and but on the side I was working also on the side to for some extra money for day to day, and also doing our studies, which was very, very demanding, so a lot of hours. So that was as a student, but then afterwards there was many other challenges during work when I was working. So I don't know if you want to talk about
Absolutely.
that now.
I definitely would want to hear a challenge story, and how you overcame it.
Yeah, so after graduation in 1988 with my bachelor's master's in architecture, then I was in Boston. I had gone to my relative's place over there, and that's where all the Ivy colleges are, Harvard, and all the big schools. And even before people graduate, the companies come and they hire the students, So it was very tough for me, although we had a very good architect education, but it was very hard. For 2 months or so I was there looking for jobs. I couldn't find anything. Then I called my friend in New York City. He said, just come over here, there's plenty of jobs here.
So New York is the place for
New York,
jobs,
so I
yes.
came to New York. Right away I got the job, and I was there for 12 years. But during those 12 years was very, very difficult, because we were first on practical training visa, then H1 visa, which is limited number of years. So to find a company who's going to take the added responsibility to sponsor you, and with all this cutthroat competition with everybody here, even out of jobs, and recession happening and all of that, and it was very tough, but luckily my resume and my work was I was very good at computers, drawing on the computer and all that, and so I always was able to find a job even with very tough circumstances, and I had to move from company to company, and accommodations, in New York City from one place to another. I lived in Kew Gardens and New York City, whatever. So it was very tough period, and then so then I got married. I was almost at the point of going back because it was very difficult. Yeah, and then it was like, at the same time I was planning to get married, and
So did you get married here?
yes, I got married here, but it was, it was not for the fact. I had got a lot of proposals and all that, but nothing was clicking, and I was ready to go back. But then suddenly it was like a miracle, this one family called, and I really liked them, and everything worked out. I got married, I moved to New Jersey, slowly things got settled.
It was so stressful. I was being ripped off by this unreliable, lousy credit card processing service.
Our money wasn't in our bank. We got charged surprise extra fees. There seemed to always be issues.
So one day, I told everyone, we are switching to NRS Pay because they offer clean, honest, and reliable credit card processing.
And now the lines move like this.
I am loving NRS Pay. मेरे बिजनेस के लिए ये सबसे बढ़िया क्रेडिट कार्ड प्रोसेसिंग सर्विस है.
So how about your like paperwork and everything else that?
Yeah, then later on, later on my wife sponsored me to for the green card and all that. So, but that was not the reason why I stayed. I got a lot of proposals. I could have left, any time. I was on the point of leaving actually, and but then it just turned out it was like a miracle, and so I just happened to stay, and
So that is when you got your green card and everything, and then you started your own company.
yes.
That was 2001.
Yes. So after I moved to New Jersey, so I worked again for I think 2-3 years in big architect firms, and I had my son also at the same time, and it was very difficult to manage with my wife working in New York City, to manage all of that. So being here, I used to come and look up, during lunchtime or whatever, and so it became. But I used to hear from my boss, it's like I'm late from lunch for 5-10 minutes, and it's like it's a big deal, when I'm doing so much of work for them, making them millions of dollars. I got so mad, that you can't be a little flexible for 5-10 minutes, and I got so mad. I was like, all right, I'm doing everything for you, why can't I do it for myself? If I'm doing everything for you, making you millions of dollars, why can't I do it for myself? So I started on my own, and I started freelancing first as a starting point. I started, and by the way, in the meantime, I was studying for my architect license exam. So that was also tough, and I would suggest everybody get all your credentials done ahead of time before you start a family, because then it becomes very difficult, So after that, I passed the architect exam, and that gave me an edge over everybody else, in the architect field. And then I started my own company, freelancing for big.
I'm sure there were a lot of, when you started your own company, of course, challenges, hard work.
Right.
So any kind of challenge you want to mention, so that our viewers, they already know that, hey, this can happen.
Yeah, it's something very interesting. When I started my company, I was a sole proprietor. My company name was Paritosh Kumar, architect, something like that. And I used to get calls from, because it's an Indian name, I used to get mostly Indian people calling me. And then for some reason, I had to change my company name to PK Architecture. There was some technical something.
So that mainstream people come to?
So when I started PK Architecture, then a lot of people started calling me from all different, so I thought it's like something to do with the name, and it's not that a racist thing, but it's like people in the same community want, for culture and language, they prefer professionals in the same culture, so it's just a preference like that. But then I realized that so it was tough, and then also there was something known as set aside for minorities. There is a set aside quota of that. If you're trying to get government projects or something, and they stopped that. They said it's like discrimination or something. So now for minorities, it's more difficult to get jobs, and you cannot compete with those big companies out there. Then I started advertising and going to chambers of commerce and doing marketing, and luckily I started getting from small to bigger projects, bigger and bigger projects, residential, commercial. And then people started seeing my work.
So it's basically social networking.
Yes, social networking, very important. Yeah, you have to get to know people. I met the mayors of the towns, and they somehow they discovered their economic development department. They found me out, and so I started with the small projects. From small, they loved my work, and then it started snowballing from getting bigger and bigger projects. I did some municipal projects, and then people got to know me, and then they gave me bigger private companies started hiring me. So so it's just a matter of, you can't sit at home and think you're going to get work. You have to go out there. You have to network with people. You have to see the right kind of people, and that's what starts getting you work.
Absolutely. So I was looking at your bio, and of course I saw that you have won numerous awards, accolades, and stuff like that. So tell me, what inspires you? What motivates you? And so that our viewers also get motivated.
Yeah. So we got a lot of awards. New Jersey State Senate and Assembly, New Jersey Building and Industry Association, several mayors of different towns. They all gave us a lot of awards and stuff. So. But what it boils down to is the same thing that I learned long time ago in my childhood, that passion. If you love what you're doing, you're going to become good at whatever you're doing, and that, I loved architecture so much. It's not really work for me. It's like I enjoy doing it, and I spend, hours and hours, sometimes 2 or 3 o'clock at night, working, and a lot of times now it's a little less. I'm a little older, but for a long time I was like just getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and that's it. All the time I was, and so that passion. I loved architecture so much. So that passion makes you go out of your way, go above and beyond what you're supposed to do for your client, and it gives you great results. You're not just doing like a box. We see a lot of houses, they're just boxes, or other buildings, they're just boxes. I don't like to do that. I like if you see my website and all that, it's like a sculptural quality to it. I like to give some character to the architecture, and to cater to my clients' needs, so they are very happy all the way from scratch to the end of construction. I support them, and you can see my reviews. They all love me for that, and how much patience. You have to have patience,
Absolutely.
with so many family members. You have to cater to them, and in commercial you have the mayors and all the departments. They have their own requirements. You have to meet their requirements. So you have to be patient and detail oriented. If you take care of the details, the big things will take care of themselves.
It was so stressful. I was being ripped off by this unreliable, lousy credit card processing service.
Our money wasn't in our bank. We got charged surprise extra fees. There seemed to always be issues.
So one day, I told everyone, we are switching to NRS Pay because they offer clean, honest, and reliable credit card processing.
And now the lines move like this.
I am loving NRS Pay. मेरे business के लिए ये सबसे बढ़िया credit card processing service है.
Absolutely. So, in the end, would you want to give any message out to people, especially, architects who are coming from India?
Yeah.
Any message for them?
Yeah, sure. I would say, first of all, set your overall goals. When you come here in life, what's your overall goal? Are you planning to just work for a company, or you planning to have your own company? You planning to stay in this country or go back to India? A lot of those big life goals is going to affect how you're going to work. So I would set first your overall life goals and see what you want to do, and then break it down from that to yearly goals, to monthly goals, to weekly goals, daily goals, and start acting on that. We can make a lot of plans, but unless we act, it's just that, especially for architects, it's a very tough profession, in this country, especially financially and all of that. So you have to love what you're doing, and then you'll be able to put in extra efforts and follow through on your goals, basically.
Wonderful, and thank you so much, and wishing you all the best.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And I wish everybody good luck. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.